Hey everyone, and welcome to this edition of Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams, and with me, my partner in crime, Chris King. Christopher, here we are on a Wednesday, and a lot of stuff going on a Wednesday. Plenty
But
of interesting things from yesterday, and lots of good stuff coming back. So, some reflections of last night. We had some good things happen, and some not so good things happen.
yeah, I didn't think Colorado was going to completely fold up like a cheap tent against Dallas at home. That was a disappointing performance for sure. We just talked about in the pre-show about Wyoming. Credit to New Mexico. They played defense, which is something they don't normally do. But like we said, they also had two guys that didn't shoot the ball despite playing extended minutes. How do you play 31 minutes and never get a shot off?
Well, you have to take them first.
So that's what I mean. He played 31 minutes and never even bothered trying to take one.
Well, you'd mentioned that those two guys had gotten 5 rebounds combined.
Yeah, a
right?
total of 5 rebounds and 3 steals and 3 blocks.
Okay. So how many? Well, not that it makes any difference, and not that we're going to look, but of those 5 rebounds, you got to think at least 1 or 2 of them were an offensive rebound. They could have perhaps put it back.
Sadly,
They're defensive.
They're all defensive rebounds.
Okay, 5 rebounds. All now, you know what? Everybody.
If you had the one guy had 3 steals, you think he would get something in transition off of that,
right? Well, he did. He got a pass to someone else who took.
No, he didn't even have an assist.
Oh, that's true too. Wow. Okay, well,
his offensive rating was 0.
Well, there you go. But he had a defensive rating.
Yeah, so I'm sure he did.
Yeah. Well, before we get started, we got a really cool thing now from our buddies at BetMGM, and we know that they're big time. BetMGM has really, done a very good job with the folks for NBA fans, and they got a new deal. It's a fun one for those folks who enjoy betting on pro basketball. And here's the deal. Bet $10 on any NBA game and you get $200 free if either team hits a 3. So when you go to your BetMGM app and you bet $10 on any NBA game, you get $200 free if either team hits a 3. Now that's a pretty good chance that's going to happen. But
yeah, it's not like we're playing back in the 80s where the teams at most hit like 2 or 3 threes a game because nobody shot them.
Right. Well, that's not the case. Put down $10 using your BetMGM app on any NBA game. You get $200 free bucks if either team hits a free. Remember that you must be 21 years or older to play, and always bet responsibly. Okay? So by all means, check it out. All the information on this great promotion is in our show box below. So
don't feel bad. Where is it? There we go. Yeah, Colorado screwed a lot of people yesterday. Nobody expected them to put up 1 goal at home, given the way that they've played there all season and the way they played against Dallas on the road on Sunday. It was
they made Braden Holtby look like a superstar.
Yeah, and that's hard to do these days.
It is, but you know what? Kudos to him. All right,
good old Eular's here,
Hey, Eular. The whole gang's in. By the way, while you're here, smash that like button and subscribe button because that helps us and it helps you too. So by all means, tell your friends, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. And we're going to go to the state where we all enjoyed the maple syrup. Not so much lately. They've not done us proud lately, but doesn't mean we're getting off the bandwagon for Vermont.
Yeah, I'm not going to jump off the Vermont bandwagon. They lost the other day to Hartford. That was on the road. This one's on the road too, but let's face it, New Hampshire has not been all that great. The Wildcats are 12-10. They're 7-6 in the America East. Vermont, they had their 14-game win streak snapped with that loss in overtime the other night. They're still 20-5 and 12-1. The Catamounts 7-4 on the road. New Hampshire's 9-2 at home, but if you look at their record, they haven't really beaten anybody of substance. When you look at the actual numbers, I mean, they've beaten up a bunch of non-Division I teams. like St. Joseph's of Maine. They beat Central Connecticut, but everybody beats them. They beat Maine. Everybody beats them too. So, I mean, you're not talking about top drawer teams here. Vermont's still 104th in scoring offense at 74.4 points a game. They're 6th in field goal percentage at 49.3. They're 3rd in 2-point shooting at 59%. They're 47th in 3-point shooting, and they're 29th at the free throw line. So it doesn't matter where John Becker's team shooting the ball from. Most of the time it's going in. Meanwhile, New Hampshire's 232nd in scoring offense at 69.5 points a game. They're 197th in field goal percentage, 238th in 2-point shooting, and they're 288th at the charity stripe. These teams met back on January 6th in Vermont. The Catamounts took an 82-68 win that ran their win streak in this series to 14 in a row. They've won 21 of the last 22. On top of that, of those 22 games, Vermont has won, I believe it's 17 of them by at least double figures. Vermont 5-1 in their last 6 after an ATS loss. New Hampshire 1-7 against the spread after a straight-up win. You have to think John Becker's team is going to be aggravated. This is like when I talked to John over the weekend when he was asking about IUPUI and Cleveland State. After Cleveland State had that 76-75 loss at home to UIC, I said, watch out, Cleveland State is going to be pissed off, and they're going to come out and try and run IUPUI right out of the gym. That game ended up 82-45. It's not going to be probably that one-sided here, but Vermont should still get a double-digit victory to get back in the win column and, beat up on their neighbors because obviously, New Hampshire right next door to Vermont. So it's a short trip.
Yeah, this is one of those rivalry games where you've got one side that dominates the other, but there's definitely rivalry between Vermont and New Hampshire. So that should be fun. Let's move on. And we go from Vermont and New Hampshire to
St. Bonaventure.
the Bonnies.
At home, they faced UMass. Super Sly was just asking about St. Bonaventure. He said he was on the Bonnies. I'm a big fan of St. Bonaventure. We just saw them take a home set from a very good St. Louis team, winning at the Heifetz Arena on Friday and then winning at the Riley Center on Monday night. Minutemen are 11-12 overall, but they're 2-6 on the road. The Bonnies 15-7 overall, 9-2 on the road, or at home, I should say, at the Riley Center. The Bonnies 180th in scoring offense, 71.1 points a game. They're 129th in field goal percentage, 152nd in 2-point shooting, and 44th in the line at 75%. They're facing a UMass team that has all kinds of problems on the defensive end of the floor. The Minutemen 342nd in scoring defense at 77.4 points a game. They are 353rd in field goal percentage defense at 48.3%. They don't stop anybody inside as they're giving up a 55.2% clip from 2-point range, which is 352nd in the country. And just for good measure, they're 308th in 3-point defense at 36%. It hasn't gotten any better in Atlantic 10 play. The Minutemen are last in the conference in scoring defense, field goal percentage defense, and 2-point defense. That doesn't bode well against St. Bonaventure team that is loaded with experience, like we said the other day when we were talking about that game with St. Louis. All 5 starters for St. Bonaventure are seniors. Kyle Lofton, Dominic Welch, Jalen Attaway, Ozana Sunny. They're a really good group there. UMass 3-9 in their last 12 against teams with winning home record, 1-4 in their last 5 after a straight-up win. And St. Bonaventure's won 8 in a row in this series. 6 of those 8 wins by at least 11 points. Playing at the Riley Center, Mark Schmidt's team should roll to a 4th straight win as they take care of business against an overmatched Minutemen team.
Here's one for us. Super Sly is here. Good day, folks. Lots of college action tonight. He's on St. Bonaventure. We just got over that. St. Joe's, LSU. Any love for Colgate?
I actually have Colgate later on in the down in the Chinese menu there. They're on the road. It's going to be a tough matchup against Army, but Army, they just lost 52-49 to Pete Medhurst and Navy over the weekend up there or at home. So the Raiders, they've played some really good basketball of late. I know they've struggled on the road. They're just 6-10 as the visiting team, but they also played some pretty big-name teams on the road. I mean, they played at Harvard. They played at Cornell. They played at NC State. They played at Pitt. They played at St. John's.
Mm-hmm.
They played at Vermont. They played at Syracuse, and they beat Syracuse at home. So Colgate's a battle-tested team. I mean, you look at their record; they're only 15-11, but you have to remember they started the year 4-10. Since then, they've won 11 out of 12. I think Colgate should take care of Army. They beat them by 19 at home last month. They should get the win here to sweep the season series and improve to 12-2 in the Patriot League. And like we said before, it's setting up that final matchup of the season when they'll face Navy on February 26th. Could decide the Patriot League title. The Midshipmen 10-4 going into tonight's game at American, where they're favored to win as well.
Ufer has a quick question about Campbell Radford on 124 under.
Ooh, Campbell and Radford. Well, one thing about Campbell is you have to love the fact that, their nickname is the Fighting Camels.
Right.
Campbell coming off a 60-42 win over High Point. Tubby Smith's team on the road went down in that one. Kevin McGeehan, his team is not the same team it was when Chris Clemens was there a couple of years ago. Neither one of these teams plays with any kind of tempo. Campbell is now the fourth slowest team in the nation at 62 possessions a night. And Radford's just 314th in tempo at 64.7 possessions. They're coming off a 60-54 win at Hampton. Basically, if they're not playing a team like Presbyterian or UNC Asheville or Longwood, a team that wants to run, you're not going to see a ton of points out of either one of these teams. Like I said, Campbell wants to just suck the air out of the ball and act like you're dribbling a brick. I don't expect to see a ton of points there. I know KenPom has it coming in around 123, somewhere in that range. The under's probably a safe bet just because of the fact that you can't trust either team to do anything with the ball. Campbell's 285th in scoring offense. Radford is 338th. And the Campbell is 20th in scoring defense. I mean, it's hard to argue with those kind of numbers. Campbell's favored by 4 overall in that game, but the under is 4-1 in their last 5 as a road favorite. And Radford seeing the total stay under in each of their last 4 on Wednesday, which is, of course, one of those interesting stats that nobody cares about, but it's also 5-1 in their last 6 overall. So I would lean towards the under there.
Okay, let's go to the ice now. Get your questions ready, folks. We got some stuff going on in the NHL, and we're going to start with, you ready? Here we go.
Yep, we are going to go to Calgary, where we told you last night the Flames were going to take care of business against Columbus. Everybody's like, ooh, Columbus had won 3 games in a row. So what? Columbus's goaltending still can't stop a beach ball most nights, and that's what happened yesterday. They got torched. Tyler Toffoli scored in his first game in a Flames uniform after getting traded from Montreal, so good for him. Tonight they're at home against the Ducks. Anaheim's 23-17-9 on the year. They're 10-9-5 on the road. The Flames are rolling along. They're 27-13-6 overall. They're 11-4-4 at home. Dan Vladar started last night in the front game of the back-to-back, so you're going to get Jacob Markstrom for the Flames, who all he's done is go 20-10-5 with 212 goals against, a 926 save percentage, and a league-high 8 shutouts against John Gibson for Anaheim, who's 15-11-8 with a 254 goals against, a 921 save percentage, and 1 shutout. The Ducks just 18th in goals per game at 2.88. They're 14th in goals against at 2.80. Calgary is 8th in goals per game at 3.39, and they only give up 2.39 a night, which is second in the league behind only Carolina. That's called foreshadowing. The Ducks 1-5 in their last 6 as a road underdog. They're 0-8 in their last 8 games against a Western Conference opponent. Meanwhile, Calgary's won their last 7 overall and their last 8 as a favorite. It's hard to slow down the Flames right now. I mean, you look at some of the numbers that they've put up of late. Calgary in their last stretch of games here, they scored 6 last night. They had 5 against the Islanders over the weekend. They had 5 against Toronto. They had 6 against Vegas. And going back to before the All-Star break, they had back-to-back 4-goal games and wins over Dallas and Arizona. So you're talking about in the last 6 games, the Flames have scored 30 goals. So they're averaging 5 goals a night. Good luck to John Gibson and the Ducks trying to slow that down. Daryl Sutter's got the Flames playing some good hockey.
Absolutely. Let's move on from Calgary.
Alrighty, yeah. We'll take a look here.
Canes.
James, one quick thing there. Your math is off. 65 and 57 is 122, not 132. The Canes and the Panthers, that's at the PNC Arena in Raleigh, in LA's neighborhood there.
Mm-hmm.
The Panthers 32, 10, and 5 on the year, but guess what? This game's not in Florida where they're 23 and 3. They're on the road where they're just 9, 7, and 5. Meanwhile, Carolina's 32, 11, and 3 overall, 16, 4, and 1 on home ice. Be a good goaltending matchup as Sergei Bobrovsky, 23, 4, and 3 with a 256 goals against, a 920 save percentage, and 1 shutout. Takes the net for the Panthers against Frederik Andersen, 25, 7, and 1 with a 204 goals against, a 929 save percentage, and 2 shutouts. And Jim, talk about a clash of styles here. The Panthers lead the league in goals per game at 4.09.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to face a Carolina team that leads the league in goals against at 2.37. On the flip side, Carolina's 6th offensively with 3.48 goals a game, and they're going to face a Florida defense that is 18th, giving up 2.89 goals a night. One other big thing for Florida, they haven't played since February 1st. So think about this. The All-Star break ended last week. Florida still hasn't been on the ice. Meanwhile, we've seen Carolina play 4 times in that stretch. They've already knocked all the rust off. Mm-hmm. Florida's going to be a little bit rusty tonight.
You would think.
Yeah, Carolina's 8-2 in their last 10 with at least 3 days of rest. Florida has struggled going up to the Tar Heel State. They are 15, 37, and 2 in the last 54 meetings in Carolina, and they are just 6 and 14 in the last 20 meetings overall. This line has moved down. It was originally Carolina was going at minus 120. It's minus 110 now. I think the Hurricanes playing at home should take care of business. Like we said, Florida has not played a game since February 1st. That's a long stretch to go without having a game this time of year.
Absolutely. And the other part to that is that both of these teams seem to be home teams. You know, they rack up the most of their wins at home. They don't do that well when they take to enemy ice. We're getting ready to go. Go ahead.
I was thinking Carolina's lost 3 or 4 coming out of the All-Star break, but they were all road games.
Right. Here's the deal. We're heading over to the association. We got a few basketball questions before we get there, and we'll start with Mike Stoker.
Oh, the Pacers on the money line.
And the Bulls.
Well, I like the Bulls, and I like the Jazz. The Pacers always scare me because of the fact that they don't stop anybody on defense. I mean, I guess the one plus is that they're playing Washington tonight. And, you know, Washington.
Definitely a plus.
Yeah, Washington is retooling, and that's probably, you know, putting it lightly because they won't have Porzingis again tonight. They won't have Beal, of course. But they are coming off, you know, that impressive, if you want to call it impressive, 103-94
Any win the Wizards get is impressive.
Well, I mean, it was over the Pistons, so, I mean. And, you know, the other thing that concerns me is Indiana's playing the second game of a back-to-back. They're playing their third game in 4 nights. They got beat last night by Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Bucks. Antetokounmpo hanging a 50-burger despite only taking 21 shots from the floor. That tells me that you didn't play very good defense. I mean, let's face it, Indiana shot 51% in that game. They shot 17 of 41 for 3, but they let the Bucks shoot 56%. Antetokounmpo, 17 of 21 from the floor, 2 of 3 from three-point range, 14 of 18 at the line. Mm-hmm. You can't let a guy shoot 17 of 21. I mean, you're talking better than going up towards 80%. Granted, Washington doesn't have a guy like Antetokounmpo. But the thing about the Pacers is, can they stop anyone enough to get a win at home? I mean, they're just 13 and 17 as the home team on the year. That would be the one link I would be concerned about the most out of that.
All right, we got another quick question, and that's from unknown entity. Denver Nuggets under.
Oh yeah, they're going on the road. They're going to face Golden State tonight. They set the total on this one. It's currently sitting at 226. So it actually went up this morning. It was at 225. Monty Morris is questionable tonight with a concussion. Of course, you won't see Iguodala or Wiseman or Draymond Green for the Warriors. Both these teams get ready to head into the All-Star break, hoping for better days. I mean, we saw the Clippers beat the Warriors the other night, 119-104 on the road. And sure, you can talk about how Denver's won 2 straight, but they didn't cover against Orlando, winning 121-111 as an 11.5-point favorite the other night. It seems like a high total. I mean, if you look, Golden State, of course, 4th in the league in scoring defense. Denver is 12th. They only give up 107.6. Denver's a middle. Both teams are basically a middle-of-the-road offense. I mean, Golden State's 12th. Denver is 13th. You're not going to see these teams try and push the tempo all that much. Golden State has one of the highest under percentages in the league this year, which is strange because you're used to seeing them getting track meets. Denver's gone under the last 4 against teams with a winning record. Golden State's gone under in their last 4 Wednesday games, and the teams have stayed under the mark in each of their last 5 meetings against each other, and 5 of the last 6 at Golden State. I think that Unknown's onto something here with the under there.
He wants unknown on the Lakers deal. So
the Lakers, it's tough just because of the fact that you don't know which version of the Lakers you're going to get. Are you going to get the Lakers that think they can play defense, like they did with Portland, where they only gave up 107, or when they beat Portland in early February, where they gave up 94, and they beat the Nets back in late January when they gave up 96? Or are you going to get the Lakers version that gave up 131 to Milwaukee and gave up 115 to the Knicks, and gave up 129 to the Hawks? They gave up 117 to Golden State the other day. And, Utah is now won. They've gotten back on track. They've strung up 6 straight wins. They pasted Houston the other night, 135-101. Before that, they pasted Orlando. They beat Golden State by 26. They beat the Nets by 23. I'd get the fact that the total is, it's at 226 as well. The big concern is, the Lakers, and, we talked about this with LA before too, Jim, is with Frank Vogel, he's a defensive coach, but his team doesn't want to play defense. They're 20th in scoring defense, and Utah is the top-ranked scoring offense in the league at 114 points a game. That's a bad combination to me if you're a Lakers fan, because you don't necessarily have the most potent offense outside of James and Davis. Can you slow Utah down?
I don't know, but they haven't so far. Mr. Walker has a quick question for you on KenPom.
KenPom, it's a analytics site. Ken Pomeroy does all the breakdowns of every college basketball team. You can get all kinds of statistical information about every team in the country. I use it a lot just because it's got a lot of good analytics you can pull out. And, for example, if you want to look up, I don't know, Jim, give me a team.
Let's say Cincinnati.
All right, Cincinnati, who lost last night. We told you Memphis would beat them. So we can tell you right now that according to KenPom, Cincinnati is 143rd in adjusted offensive efficiency. They're 46th in defensive efficiency. They're 9th in effective field goal percentage defense at 43.9%. We can tell you what their strength of schedule is. We can tell you how many minutes are allotted basically to their bench. Basically, Wes Miller relies on his bench a little more than other teams. 36.3% of their minutes are allotted to bench players, which is the 69th highest total in the nation. We can tell you, what his percentage is of playing minutes for guys that have 2 fouls in the first half. I mean, basically, if there's a stat out there that you want to look up, KenPom has it.
There you go.
It's kenpom.com. It's, it breaks down. It'll give you information about, the records going back to 2002. It'll give you a breakdown of every game. It'll break down quad or tier A and B games, and tell you about the arena, home court advantage. It'll give you the depth chart that they've had over the last 5 games, the most frequent lineups. So you can get a real good breakdown of whoever you want in that regard.
But come to us and let Chris do that for you, okay? We're going to go to the NBA here, guys. I know there's some more questions. We'll definitely get to them before the end. But
yet unknown, Gobert is back. He played the other night against Houston. Posted a double-double in that one. Or no, he didn't have a double-double, but he had 14 and 7, I think, just because they didn't need him that much. He only played 22 minutes. Finished with 14 and 7. Also had 2 assists and a block. Granted, it was Houston, so it really didn't matter. I mean, the only starter that played more than 30 minutes was Mitchell. So he's back too. So the only guy who's not playing tonight for Utah would be Rudy Gay.
Oh, there you go. All right, we're going to go to the NBA, but first we want to tell you about our new deal from BetMGM for NBA fans, okay? And that new deal is a good one. And here's what happens. You wager, wrong one. You wager $10, and if either team hits a 3-pointer, you get $200. So that's the kind of deal you're going to get from the folks at BetMGM. So it's a great opportunity. All the information is in the show box below. Remember, you have to be 21 years or older to play, and always wager responsibly. So as we get to the NBA here, just want to throw that out there to you for you NBA fans. Again, all the information on the BetMGM promotion with Winners and Whiners is in our show box below. And here we go to the association.
Well, Mike was just asking about the Bulls, or I'm sorry, Scott Nowak was asking about the Bulls. They're facing the Kings tonight at the United Center. I like Chicago in this one. I see the line has bumped up slightly. It was 5, now it's 6. Let's face it, Sacramento 22 and 37 overall this year. They're 7 and 20 on the road. They're still trying to figure things out with Domantas Sabonis, and Jeremy Lamb hasn't played yet because he's been injured. He's questionable tonight, I believe. I didn't really understand that trade. I know that the Kings wanted to get some talent by bringing in Sabonis, giving him a big man and everything. They had Richaun Holmes. It's not like he was playing badly. I didn't understand giving up Buddy Hield and Tyrese Halliburton in that trade. Obviously, Halliburton's a second-year point guard. You're going to get a lot more mileage out of him than you would have with some of these other guys. Let's see. Injury report shows Lamb is questionable. Davion Mitchell questionable with a hand injury. For the Bulls, you won't see Alonzo Ball or Alex Caruso or Zach LaVine. He's supposed to be out until after the All-Star break now. But you still have Vucevic. DeMar DeRozan has been on a real roll for the Bulls. And let's face it, the Bulls are 7th in scoring offense at 112.4 points a game. They lead the league in field goal percentage and in three-point shooting. And you're facing a Sacramento team that is horrible on the defensive end. They are 28th in the league in scoring defense. They're 29th in field goal percentage. They're 24th in three-point defense. Those are terrible numbers when you get right down to it. The Kings 3-8 in their last 11 as a road underdog. They're 4-11 in their last 15 on the road. The Bulls have gone 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 overall, and they're 7-2 in their last 9 at home. James, you asked which Bulls team is going to show up. Well, I mean, if you look, they come in with 4 straight wins, 3 of which came by double digits. So it's hard to argue with that and plus they've won 7 of 10. Meanwhile, you've got a Sacramento team whose wins lately have come over Washington, Oklahoma City, and Minnesota in the second game of a back-to-back the day after the trade that sent Buddy Hield and Halliburton to Indiana for Sabonis and company. Mm-hmm. I just don't have faith in the Kings because they don't stop anyone.
That's a problem. And the Bulls are always, the Bulls have to get themselves in gear at this point if they want to close strong and, improve their playoff position.
Yeah, because I mean, if you look, the Eastern Conference is crowded at the top. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the Heat and the Bulls both 37 and 21, so they're tied for the top spot. But then you look right behind them. The Bucks are only 1.5 games behind them. Cleveland is only 2 games back. The 76ers are 2.5 back. And Boston is the 6th place team, and they're only 3.5 games behind Miami and Chicago.
Right.
So you've got a 6-team cluster there where who knows how those are going to shake out by the time the season's over, because we still got 24, 25 games left in the regular season.
Yep. So let's move on to the next one, see who's going to have some fun. And it's the Celtics and the Pistons. And these are not exactly two of the more prominent teams. The Celtics have played decent basketball. The Pistons are pretty erratic.
Yeah, well, Boston, they've won 9 in a row. They're playing a second game of back-to-back here, but, they pasted Philadelphia last night. I guess the 76ers forgot there was a game because they didn't play defense. Boston scored 132 points in a 132-87 win despite emptying the bench. I think, the water boy got in the fourth quarter and probably scored 6 or 8 points against Philadelphia because Philadelphia just did not look interested at all. Detroit's 12 and 45 this season. They're 4 and 25 on the road. Like I said, Boston has won 9 straight. They're 34 and 25. They're 20 and 10 at home. They're 7 and 3 in the second game of back-to-backs this season. Detroit 29th in scoring offense, 29th in field goal percentage, 29th in three-point shooting. We say it all the time. The Pistons are just happy Oklahoma City's in the league because they're the team that's worse than them in all 3 of those categories. Meanwhile, Boston is 3rd in scoring defense. They're 1st in field goal percentage defense. They're 5th in three-point defense. Pistons 0-5 against the spread in their last 5 as an underdog. They're 0-4 in their last 4 on the road. Boston 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 overall. 4-1 in their last 5 after a straight-up win. Quick look at the injury report. I know Marcus Smart left the game yesterday with an ankle injury. He's doubtful tonight. So is Robert Williams with a tight calf. He didn't even play yesterday anyway. Frank Jackson is out with a back spasm for the Pistons, according to the latest injury report. Everybody else is down in the G League.
Here's a quick comment from Tom Evans.
If the Lakers defense has improved with LeBron back, I don't see it because, like I said, they gave up 131 to Milwaukee, and that was just last week. They also, I believe, Carmelo Anthony's not going to play tonight. Not that he's a defensive stopper by any stretch of the imagination, but it does take an offensive weapon out of the mix for the Lakers. Avery Bradley is also out, and LeBron himself is questionable tonight. I wonder if he will not play, just because
Well, he's had a number of maladies, whether it's his back, whether it's his knees, whether it's there's been a few things there. I mean, if you think about it, LeBron James at 6 or 7 years old, he's played professional basketball since he was 19 years old.
Right.
I mean, he went directly to the Cavaliers from, Akron, in high school there. So there's a lot of miles on that body, and it's starting to show. So we shall see.
The Lakers have given up 112.5 points a game in the month of February in their 6 games. I know it's a small sample size, but if you look at their overall numbers, this season they've given up 112.6. So I guess if you want to say the anecdotal decrease of 0.1 points per game is an improvement, you can. I'm not sold on the fact that they can stop anyone, especially with a Utah team that leads the league in scoring,
right?
At 14 points a night.
Tom's point was good, and that is that if the Lakers are going to have success, they're going to have to hit threes, and there aren't that many guys on the Lakers who can. So
this is also true.
That is a problem, Tom. But point well taken. Great questions from everybody, and we're going to go.
I said LeBron's busy planning the Rams-Lakers parade.
Oh man, it's actually today. So our buddies at KTLA are covering it. So if you want to, after we are off the air, of course, you want to pop over, check out ktla.com. That's ktla.com. And you can watch the Lakers parade if that is something that you, not the Lakers, the Rams parade with, as you say, LeBron's probably on one of the floats. So we'll see how that works out. But we're going to go on, guys, and you keep going with.
Hold on, just to Tom's point, the Jazz are outside the top 10 in three-point defense. You're right. They're 11th. They give up 11.8 threes per game. They're also 11th in three-point defense, or percentage at 34.3. However, if you look at the Lakers, they're only 16th in threes per game, and they're 18th in three-point shooting. So is it really that much of an advantage to Los Angeles that Utah is outside the top 10?
Ryan, let me answer this question for you real quick. Okay. Do I think that baseball spring training will happen on time? I'm a huge baseball fan and likes the Kings today. Great. Good to hear. All right. Here's the theory on what's going on with baseball. No, spring training will not start on time.
Yesterday.
Let me just make that straight up. Okay. It's not going to happen. They are far apart. They're not at this point in time even sitting down and talking to each other. The only thing they agreed upon, which is weird, is that there will be a universal DH. Okay.
Which I hate.
But the most important part to all that is, of course, that if you don't play games, it doesn't matter whether you have a universal DH or not. So here's what I'm going to tell you to do. Okay. Now, Ryan was planning to go to Florida next month, but not if it's not happening. Don't make any plans just yet, Ryan. The thing is, real quick, the vast majority of the people who are on the bargaining committee for the Players Association are Scott Boras clients. Okay. So what you have to watch is that Scott Boras himself, by the way, who played in the Cardinal organization. I actually did a Florida State League game with Scott as my color analyst back in the day when Scott was playing for the Cardinals.
Scott out to tell us about what's going on.
Scott was always a bright guy. So Scott Boras has a tendency to push everything to the last minute and really do the pressure. The league does not want to go into the revenue sharing business. Everything in this situation, baseball cannot afford not to play baseball in 2022. That is a fact. Okay. The game was on life support over the past 2 years. It cannot afford any of this. And I say that as a diehard baseball fan. So hang on to your thoughts about going to Florida next month. I don't, if there is a spring training, it's going to be protracted. It'll be very short.
And then we're going to run into the same problem we ran into before where guys were getting hurt and everything else.
Well, also don't forget that there's over 65 free agents, many of whom are very good free agents.
Yeah, Carlos Correa is still out there, Trevor Story.
And don't forget that now that there's the designated hitters in the National League, there's a lot of bats out there. An Albert Pujols, for instance, somebody like that, who you might have thought, well, we're not going to sign. Maybe an Albert Pujols stays with Los Angeles. You never know.
But or somebody like Kyle Schwarber could go back to.
Oh, absolutely. Kyle Schwarber would be at the top of my list, for a DH. So there's plenty of drama to be had. And the good news is this: if Scott is in any way talking with Max Scherzer and some of the guys who are leading the Players Association's side of this, his players don't make money if baseball doesn't play. Okay, so that's a very important point. So we will see, but I think that there's right now I would say 50-50, maybe 40-60 chance that they start on time which would be the last week of March. I think it's more realistic to get the thing done probably somewhere around the first week of April. I don't think that they're going to drag it on beyond that, but baseball can't afford for this to not to happen. Hold on to your plans to trip to Florida, and I, like so many other people, hope that you're going to be able to see baseball, and that we're all going to be able to see baseball this season. But baseball has a history of shooting itself in the foot, and right now they're not getting any goodwill by not talking at all to each other. So we'll see.
The big winner out of this is Gary Bettman, because now nobody talks about how incompetent he is as a commissioner.
Right. Yeah. And the ironic thing is that Manfred had a very good history of, since '94, he's negotiated Players Association deals that, has brought it to this point. But the key has been that the amount of money that they've got from television has really amped up, what the players want in the way of collective bargaining from a standpoint of revenue sharing. It's going to be a nasty, and the fact that they decided not to go to federal arbitration on this just goes to prove that the owners are dug in incredibly deep.
Well,
so
correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but doesn't revenue sharing, I mean, when we see it in these other sports, it's because there's a cap. There is no cap.
Right, there is no cap in baseball. There's a fake cap. Okay.
Yeah, the luxury tax threshold, but that's it.
Right.
But I mean, all these other sports that have the revenue sharing, it's because of the fact that you have it's X percent of revenues are allocated towards salaries.
Right.
And such, but every team has to stay within that level.
Right.
And baseball doesn't have that.
Well, no, but the luxury tax, do I need to continue baseball education? Continue my super slide. Definitely with the NHL, with the DH in the National League, you're gonna want to continue your baseball education if you're gonna play fantasy baseball this year.
Yeah, I personally don't like that. I like the fact that there was more strategy involved in the National League game, because you had to determine whether you were going to let your pitcher hit or if you were going to sub him out and bring a pinch hitter up or whatever. So,
to make a long story short on what Chris was just talking about, yes, the other leagues have salary caps, and that's where the revenue sharing comes in. The fact that baseball has chosen not to have a salary cap, but a luxury tax, has, the Dodgers don't care. I mean, they got more money than God. They don't care. But at the end of the day, there's not going to be a salary cap in Major League Baseball. It's just not going to happen. But will there be some sort of revenue share that both sides can live with? That's really the major question here. And I do think that they'll figure it out because they have to. They have no choice. So we'll see. When it happens, don't hold your breath at this moment. But I think as we get closer to opening day, or what would be the jeopardizing of opening day, I think they're gonna amp things up and start to get back at the table. Once they're at the table, there's all kinds of things that can happen. But right now, if you're not talking, you're not advancing anything. So there you go. Spring is huge in your state, James. Yeah, you're right.
And James, to your point about the Bulls are 10-10 in their last 20, I've got news for you. Sacramento's 6-14.
So there you go. All right, let's go to 2 for the money. You ready? Here we go.
Yep. And as much as James wants to
the aforementioned Bulls are right there.
I'm gonna go with the Bulls. James, all I'm gonna say about this game right now is, remember last Wednesday when you touted Robert Morris against Detroit Mercy? How did that pan out?
The Caddy Mounts.
Yeah, Vermont. I know they burned me the other day, but they have dominated New Hampshire over the last decade. They play very good basketball, and I think this is like we said with Cleveland State, IUPUI. I think this is going to be an angry Vermont team that they let one slip away. They were trying to be unbeaten in the America East, and that's gone now thanks to Hartford. Way to go, Hartford!
Yeah.
But, I think Vermont will take care of business here. The Flames over the Ducks, I put the puck line in there in case anybody wants to go that way instead of the money line. But, it's all about putting both options out there for you guys. And Gonzaga, yeah, that's a huge number. But you know what? I looked at the stats. Gonzaga has outscored their opponents in the West Coast Conference by an average of 29.1 points per game this season. That's everybody. That's beating BYU. That's beating St. Mary's. That's beating Santa Clara. We're not just talking about you're beating up on, Pacific and teams like that. The first meeting between these teams, Gonzaga won 117-83. 117 points in 40 minutes. I mean, Pepperdine loves to run. This is not the team you want to run against. I mean, Gonzaga's second in adjusted offensive efficiency, their first in effective field goal percentage is 16.5%. They shoot 62.2% from inside the arc. Lorenzo Romar, he's 45th in tempo. Why are you running? You can't stop anybody.
Well, it's like Pepperdine is running on the beach at Malibu, which is where the campus is. So try running in sand. It doesn't work very well.
Just look at Pepperdine's last few games. They lost 105-61 to San Francisco last week.
Which is a good team. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from the Dons, but it was another game where they gave up 100 points. They gave up 91 to BYU Saturday. They gave up 85 to Loyola Marymount. They gave up 82 to Portland. These are huge numbers that you're giving up. 81 to St. Mary's, 81 to Pacific. Pacific scored 81 on you. I mean, Pepperdine, they scored 83 points the first time, but that's because they hit 10 out of 25 from three-point range.
I think Pepperdine would be happy if they can keep Gonzaga under 200.
I think Pepperdine will be happy if they just show up.
Right. All right. Enough of this poor Pepperdine situation. Let's move to 4 for the money.
All right, and we'll go on. Yeah, I like Fresno State. It's at home. The Bulldogs play good basketball at home. I'm not taking anything away from UNLV. Kevin Kruger, Lon Kruger's kid, he's done
a nice job.
Yeah, Bryce Hamilton's played well, but going to Fresno State is an uphill climb for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that the Rebels have enough bullets in the gun to get a win over a Fresno State team that suffocates you defensively. They're going to have to knock down a pretty high percentage of their shots to get past Fresno State because Fresno State is the third slowest team in the nation in tempo. That's not UNLV style. Boise State going on the road. They're going to take on Air Force. I like the Broncos here. They're trying to keep pace with at the top of that Mountain West with Wyoming, Fresno State, Colorado State, all those teams right up there. San Diego State even. They should take care of an Air Force team that started the year strong. The Falcons were 7-1 out of the gate. Since then, they've gone 3-12. They lost 5 in a row coming into this one. I look for Boise State to prevail in that contest. We talked about Carolina and Florida. It's just tough to come back after not playing for 2+ weeks, especially against a team that's already played a few games. And Boston and Detroit, I just don't have faith in the Detroit team that's been torched repeatedly of late. They gave 141 to Charlotte last week. They gave 132, I think it was, to Memphis before that. Boston's won 9 in a row. Look for the Celtics to make it 10 straight wins.
Okay, you know it, you love it. It's time for Chris King's Big Menu.
Right. We'll start with Colgate. I mean, we were talking about that at the beginning of the show. I think it was Sly asking about it because he said he was on a bunch of teams. I like Colgate over Army on the road. Colgate, he said they've won 11 out of 12. Can't go wrong with that. Navy over American. I asked Pete about if he was glad that this game was not at Fort Myer. He said he doesn't think Fort Myer has internet yet. Navy, they're trying to keep pace in the Patriot League with Colgate. Like we said, those two teams will meet next Saturday in the regular season finale for both teams. It'll be a good matchup for the Patriot League seeding for the tournament. I look for them to get the win over the Eagles. In a rare game where you'll see a couple teams from a Power 5 conference in here. I'm going to go with Miami on the road over Louisville. The Cardinals, they got rid of Chris Mack. They haven't really done anything of value. I know Miami has been up and down. They did take down Wake Forest over the weekend. Before that, they beat Georgia Tech. Jim Larrañaga has done a good job with that team. 18-7. I bet they wish he wished he had a couple more players on his team that were big contributors. But that's a lot better than what they've been doing. Loyola of Chicago on the road over Valparaiso. I mean, we just watched Loyola Chicago destroy Northern Iowa. Hopefully they don't have a hangover from that. But the Beacons have struggled most of the year. I like Minnesota on the ice on the road at Winnipeg. The Jets let me down the other night against Chicago. They only scored 1 goal in a 3-1 loss to the Blackhawks. We saw the Wild win big over Detroit. I look for them to get the win there. Colorado and Vegas, I look to stay under 6.5. I mean, Colorado's playing the second game of back-to-back. We talked about how they struggled last night in a 4-1 loss. Vegas, they're supposed to get Jack Eichel to make his season debut tonight.
Right.
With the ever-popular, we're not going to call it cap circumvention because it's legal, but putting Mark Stone on long-term injured reserve so they could so they can fit Eichel's contract in. Reminds me a lot of what the Lightning did with Kucherov last year because in the playoffs there is no cap. So it's basically an extended vacation for Mark Stone so he get ready for the playoffs. But I look for that to stay under the mark. It'll be interesting to see what Eichel does playing in Vegas. The Ducks and the Flames, let's go over 5.5. Like we said, Calgary's averaging 5 goals a game in their last 6 by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So that should go over. Golden State minus 5.5 over Denver. The Nuggets, beyond Nikola Jokic, who can you count on every night?
You can't.
Exactly.
We talked about this game already a couple of times.
Yeah, Utah, like I said, they've won 6 in a row. The Lakers won't have Carmelo Anthony. They won't have Avery Bradley. And Avery Bradley is probably one of the best defenders when you get right down to it. Whether that says anything about the Lakers or not is up to you. But Utah's playing well. They're back to being healthy. You got Gobert in there, so it moves Hassan Whiteside back into a reserve role where he's more effective. I think the Jazz will get the win on the road at the Crypto Dome. And the Nets, this is just one of those, I saw Adam Silver said that the vaccine mandate for New York City is backwards and Kyrie Irving should be allowed to play because if a visiting player from another city comes in and is unvaccinated, they can play, but Irving can't because he's in Brooklyn. Whether that actually comes out and they changed it or not, who knows? But I just can't trust the Knicks. They're too inconsistent. They just lost to Oklahoma City, and that was an Oklahoma City team that played without Gilgeous-Alexander. They played without Lou Dort, and instead they got burned by Trey Mann and Josh Giddey. You just can't trust the Knicks. They'll probably give up 55 points to Seth Curry or something like that and find a way to lose. I'll take the points in Brooklyn.
Yeah, in the Battle of the Boroughs, Manhattan versus Brooklyn. It's been a wild day. Any more final questions before we move on? Remember, at 3:00 on the Winners and Whiners Sports Betting Network, we've got Scott and Scott at Back to the Window, and you can always find Chris and I here. Now, I've noticed some people who have put some comments out there saying that, they wish the show were either earlier or maybe they could get it at a different time. You can always get the show no later than, about a half an hour after we're finished on any one of a number of different outlets from the standpoint of the podcast. Okay. So you can hear if you missed the show, you can come back here and watch it on YouTube and mark things down, or you can listen to it as a podcast. Okay. And the same thing goes for back to the window. Okay. So there's that. So any final questions?
Tubby Smith has stepped down as the coach at High Point. His son will take over for the remainder of the year and for next season. So Tubby Smith stepping down at High Point. He was 45, and 68 as the head coach there. Stepped down after a second bout of COVID, kept him away for an extended period.
I know that Tubby's been in ill health. I hope it's not severe ill health. Tubby's a good guy. He's been good for basketball in pretty much every place he stopped. Doesn't always register in success, but he's a good man and a good person. So we wish him well, and we wish him nothing but good health. And it's sorry to hear that Tubby had to step down, but keep it in the family, and we'll go from there. Any final questions, Christopher, before we head out?
I like the Avalanche to bounce back tonight against Vegas. That's going to be an interesting one. I mean, let's face it. They didn't look good last night by any stretch of the imagination. It's not like they ran into like Jim said, they made Braden Holtby look like an all-star. They outshot Dallas 47-19, but the fact was Dallas found the back of the net 4 times. They could bounce back. Will they? Oh, it wasn't even Holtby last night. It was no wonder why they won.
Who was it?
Jake Ottinger.
Oh, okay.
It'll be Kemper in net for Colorado tonight. He'll be facing. I think it's going to be Laurent Brossoit. I don't know why they would go that way over. Leonard's out again with an upper body injury. Mm-hmm. Yeah, given the fact that I'm not sold on Brossoit, I'd probably lean towards Colorado. I know they're going to minus 130, 135 right now. So I would probably lean that way, Ryan, just because Brossoit's got to prove to me that they can have some success. And Skill Will asking about Dixie State. Good old Dixie State. Soon to change their name. I think they're going to change their name to Utah Tech next season, if that memory serves. They're playing New Mexico State on the road. Chris Jans has got a really good ball club there. I know they just lost to Utah Valley over the weekend. Stupid Mark Madsen screwing things up for everybody. He probably danced afterwards. These teams met last week. New Mexico State won by 8 on the road. They're playing at home here in Las Cruces. Always a great place to go.
A lot of good tacos down there.
There you go, Jim, with your food report for Las Cruces, right. New Mexico. New Mexico State's 11-1 at home. Meanwhile, Dixie State's 3-8 on the road. I'm just going to start calling them Utah Tech. It's a better name.
Make it easier. Because Dixie State in Utah doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't get it either. So Utah Tech is 309th in scoring defense. New Mexico State is 42nd. I think that New Mexico State will cover the line. I know it's 16 points. I know it's not the prettiest number in the world. But I just don't trust that Dixie State can handle going on the road, especially looking at their last couple of games on the road. They were whipped by 29 by Stephen F. Austin. They lost by 24 to Sam Houston State. And those are pretty decent teams. I think New Mexico State will get the win and cover the line.
Okay.
Stephen F. Austin, yeah, I think that Stephen F. Austin I like the Lumberjacks. They're another team that slides through the cracks until you get tournament time. They upset somebody, and then you're like, "Who the hell is Stephen F. Austin?"
Guess what? They're back. Yeah,
they're playing Chicago State. They just beat Chicago State by 20 on the road last week. And if there's the one time that we actually talked about Chicago State on the show, do you remember, Jim?
Yes, I do, and it wasn't good.
It was that rock fight with IUPUI where we said it was going to stay under the total, and
right.
Chicago State tried to make us look dumb by giving up a whole bunch of points in the last minute. Unfortunately for Chicago State, they actually have to play a team that has offense tonight, and that's going to go against them. I don't expect much from the Cougars. I don't think anybody ever expects anything from the Cougars.
And they're not disappointed.
Yeah, they're 2-12 on the road this year. They're coming off a 13-point loss to Sam Houston at home. I think Stephen F. Austin, if you just look at some of their numbers, they beat Utah Tech by 29 at home. They beat Utah Valley by 19. They beat Grand Canyon by 25. I think that they and seeing that they just won by 20 on the road, they should cover 19 at home against Chicago State.
There you go. All right, folks. As I said yesterday, always good questions. You guys are very bright, and we greatly appreciate you asking the questions. And so bring your pad and pencil tomorrow. Get ready because we're going to have some fun stuff. If you are NASCAR fans, we are going to do some NASCAR work on Friday. And if you are NASCAR fans, today is pole day at Daytona. Tomorrow will be the twin 250s, where the rest of the field is determined. So it's going to be some hot days at Speed Week in Daytona. The weather down there is reasonably good for this time of the year. And so there should be some hot stuff. We already went over all the fun basketball games and hockey that's going to be played tonight. Remember the BetMGM promotion. All that information's in our show box below, along with how you can follow us with regard to winnersandwhiners.com. Remember at 3 o'clock, it's Scott and Scott with Back to the Window. And tomorrow, it'll be Chris and I back here because that's where we like to be. We like to be here on 1:30, Monday through Fridays, imparting whatever wisdom we can to just...
Ryan, no, Cockburn is playing tonight. It's like THC said, Rutgers has been on a bit of a roll. They beat Ohio State. They beat Michigan State in that game that was absolutely terrible from Michigan State's perspective. Then Michigan State, of course, tanked yesterday too, and then they beat Wisconsin on the road. So people are favoring Rutgers right now because they're trying to push themselves into consideration for an at-large bid. Plus, it's at the Jersey Mike's Arena in Piscataway, so that's probably why the number is so low.
I gotta love any arena that's named after Jersey Mike's subs. I mean, it's just much to be said.
Yeah, I have to wait for the
pretty good sub.
Arena.
There you go. So, all right, gang. Have a great day. Check out the parlays. Check out what Chris is giving you. He's giving you tons of great knowledge tonight. Be back tomorrow. Tell us how you had, what kind of evening you had, if your wagers were winners. And if not, we can all whine together. Okay, fair enough?
We'll blame Scott and Scott.
What's that?
We'll blame Scott and Scott.
That's right. They blame us, we'll blame them. It's a mutual operation situation. All right, gang. Thanks a lot for joining us. Bring your questions tomorrow. Have fun. Be safe out there. And we will see you right here on the Winners and Whiners Sports Betting Network tomorrow, 1:30, when you can always know it's time for just parlays.